So I think I'll take this opportunity to say thank you for joining us. Welcome. My name is Anne-Marie Key, and I'm the head of school and foundation here at Lakefield College School. We're really happy to be launching this virtual speakers series to our entire community. And this series will join alumni with parents, with students, and our hope is that we will share stories and inspire students on their academic and personal journeys. Before I get started with tonight's speaker, Peter McArthur, I just have a couple of housekeeping notes. You are joining this evening in webinar format. And so while you don't have access to your camera or your mic, we are happy to take any questions that you might have for our speaker. Please type your questions into the Q&A box below, and we look forward to sharing these during our Q&A portion. Also note that this webinar will be recorded, and we will be sharing it in future parent and alumni communications. So before I begin, I just want to give you a little quick introduction and overview of the school for those of you who aren't have been connected to the school recently. The photo that you see on the screen right now is from yesterday here at the school. We were really excited to see our first snowfall, and you know, there are moments in time here where it doesn't feel like there is a global pandemic happening, and I think that's one of the real privileges, as we were talking about earlier, of being at a school that has so much property and so much opportunity to be outside. So let me begin by saying that we are over 360 students this year from over 40 countries. We have created a very extensive safety first plan, and while we are following all kinds of additional protocols that make the school not feel a lot like Lakefield, we are really making sure that our mission and our values and our vision are front and center in all that we're doing. We have a couple of interesting projects happening right now on diversity, inclusivity, and on mental health and wellness. And our values, which were developed in the 1990s, are actually going to be updated to reflect what is just more language that was more contemporary. But the values and the spirit of them will not change. So our main goal right now is just to make sure that Lakefield feels as Lakefield as possible while adhering to the new rules. So I'll give you this little quick glimpse. You are familiar with what chapel usually looks like, and we usually spend 4 days a week starting our day together in chapel. In the pandemic, if you click through the next 3 photos, you will see that we have had to adapt our chapel, and we've taken it outdoors. And you know, it's one of those moments where we feel like, wow, why haven't we done this before? Community first is one of the most important pillars. We've got 4 big pillars, and we've shifted our entire school to a house model. The second important pillar, as you see here, is authentic learning. We've also taken our learning outdoors, and as you can see in some of the photos here, we're getting very creative. And by authentic learning, we mean that we want Lakefield to remain a school that is preparing you not just for university admissions, but for life. And so that gets back to the opening comment around our values and our mission and vision as a school. The next pillar is outdoors every day. And we're really excited about this one because we're saying we're going to continue the tradition of spending time outdoors, but we're also passionate about ensuring that our students demonstrate their responsibility to the outdoors. And what does it mean in this environment? The picture that you're looking at in front of you, I'll just give you a quick example of how we've had to be a bit creative, knowing that we weren't going to be able to socialize and be together as much this year. In particular, for me to be with students, we rented a pontoon. And I spent September and most of October heading out every evening in small groups. We did this by house so that we could just sit together and talk about what's working well, what can be improved. And that opportunity to really connect and give students voice into the future of the school has been something that we have been able to maintain, although a little bit differently given the circumstances. And finally, along with that commitment to the outdoors, some of you may not realize we own a second piece of property down the road. You're looking at a recent picture of it here on the screen. And we have been working through a series of 5 webinars where we have invited different schools from the US to share how they have incorporated a farm into their school. And we've made a commitment to do some farming with half an acre in the spring. Again, it's another great opportunity for students to do some hard work outdoors, connect with the land, and see, you know, the whole evolution of where their food comes from. And we are really excited by this opportunity. So if you would like to join in one of those sessions, tomorrow is the 3rd of 5. I will just end by saying that Lakefield feels different this year, for sure, with the pandemic, but we've been so grateful that so far we've had only great health at the school. And it's really a time when our teachers and our entire staff have pulled together just to go above and beyond to continue to make Lakefield the special school that it is. And so we're super grateful to our community. We're also grateful to the creativity for events like this, where we can come together and join. And now more than ever, we want that broader community to be able to connect. And if we can play a role, we're really happy about that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sophia Onoprienko, who is a grade 12 student who has a fantastic story that one day you should find out about. And most recently, that she is a remote learner who we're hoping will be able to join us in January. I will turn it over to you, Sophia.
Thank you, Ms. Key. So yes, my name is Sophia, and just a few words about my experience at Lakefield. Throughout my time at LCS, our community has taught me that every awareness about every important issue must be shown through actions, especially those actions that contribute to the solutions. And at LCS, we have love and appreciation to our natural world. First of all, we're surrounded by a breathtakingly beautiful campus, and of course, we take care of it. And second of all, we have an amazing organization called LEAF, which stands for Lakefield Environmental Action Force. And as a grad, I wonder how to take these habits and irreplaceable knowledge beyond the school context. Our speaker today is Peter McArthur, who's an alum from the class of 1980. Peter is a VP Innovation and Technology Banking and is National Cleantech Lead with Royal Bank of Canada. His leadership is beyond what seems to be possible in a given field. Peter was recognized as a Cleantech leader by the Clean 50 in Canada for 2019. Peter is also chair of the Ontario Clean Technology Industry Association on the board of the Canada Clean Tech Alliance. Peter's leadership and advocacy in the clean tech sector in Canada are impressive, and we're so lucky and incredibly thankful to learn from Peter today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sophia. That's a lovely introduction, and I'm pretty thrilled that what a COVID experience to have a stranded student in Mexico doing the introduction. It's an absolute honor to be speaking to you today. I'm sort of picturing myself in the Brian Jones Theater speaking to the students. Brian Jones was an amazing teacher when I was there, and I was privileged to have him as a teacher. And thinking about that theater probably doesn't fit you. Maybe it's not even still functional. There are 360 students wouldn't have fitted in the one I was in. But it's great to be here today. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. So yeah, I graduated in 1980, and one of the relevant things about me is I was sort of some people might call me a canoe head. I've always been comfortable in the woods. I started an early age, and when my parents said to me, I was a day student, there's this school down the road you might want to attend. when I found out there was this very robust outdoor education program, I thought, wow. And then I saw the campus and I thought, oh my gosh, this is an incredible place to go. I speak so strongly and positively about my high school education, and not lots of people do. So the people that go to the Grover are very fortunate, and it was very kind to me. So I had an affinity for numbers. I ended up as a commercial corporate banker in my career, and from that, I made a pivot about 12 years ago and decided to draw on that and the environmentalist inside me and focus on clean technology, and pursued the job that I currently have at Royal Bank, which has grown from an individual practitioner role to one where I'm the national lead for Royal Bank's Cleantech commercial banking practice across Canada. And what that means is, the people that I work with are supporting businesses from early stage companies that might have raised, say, $1 million and are trying to develop a new technology, to small public companies and everything in between that are trying to commercialize a new technology. I was lucky from Lakefield. I went to a U of T. I've done some stuff at Queen's, and you mentioned some of the awards. So my two board roles are sort of interesting ones. And as the chair of the Ontario Clean Technology Industry Association, I was one of the founders of this. And the purpose is, this is a tough industry. It's not easy. You might think, how timely, it must be easy to do, but innovative technology is risky. And innovative software, which might solve a technical problem, is quite relatively easy to commercialize. But innovative clean technology has a hardware component to it usually, and that's more capital intensive. And you encounter regulatory environments when you're trying to sell and develop those products. So it's got a long path to commercialization, a long path to making money. And so it can be tough to fund a business like that. So both of these associations, one acts as a voice for it in Ontario and the other for all of Canada, to talk up the needs of the sector. And during COVID, as much as Sophia might be trying to communicate with the school from Mexico, we're trying to communicate with governments across Canada about the needs of the sector during the challenges of COVID. So, what is clean technology? So, this is a definition, and the long and the short of it is, it's a technology that's being used to reduce humankind's impact on the environment. And it can be a wide variety of things. Here's a picture of a windmill, and I'm going to talk about some other examples. But that term is in fact a Canadian term. Nick Parker, a friend of mine, coined that term about 20 years ago to try to summarize what this budding sector was that's trying to improve the environment through technology. And good for Nick for doing that. So maybe, why are we interested in clean technology solutions? Well, the world's changing. The world is changing abundantly. There's no country in the planet, says United Nations, or Justin Trudeau, that can walk away from the challenge that we face. Emmanuel Macron from France suggests never has science been around. It's been so abundant to meet those challenges. I quite like those quotation from Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, that he feels there's a lack of seriousness. Perhaps the world's leaders do not realize the urgency of the situation. And sure, we have the Paris Accord, where people have made commitments to reduce our greenhouse gases and try to maintain the warming of our planet to 1.5 degrees Celsius. But the number of countries that are on track to achieve that are very few. And there really is a lack of seriousness. So when people think about heroes like Greta Thunberg, who could be in grade 11 at Lakefield right now if she was here, it's serious, and we all have to really take action. Clean tech is part of that solution. Clean tech could have some of the answers to our problems and challenges, and that's what drives me. I'm a father. I'm also a grandfather, and I'm a caring human being. And how can we deal with that? Well, clean technology is part of it, and I'm trying to do my little part to help deal with that. When I was at Lakefield, Anne-Marie, you're talking about outdoors every day, and I believe that that's an incredibly important part of humankind's connectivity to the environment, and that it's humankind grew up in the outdoors, and I think it's innate for us to be connected to those outdoors. And it's people say they can think better and more clearly. The hearing a bird chirp, I don't want to sound corny about it, but hearing a bird chirp can remind you that you're connected to the natural environment, and there's more to it than just what we might be looking at on our screens or dealing with in our places of work. So I'm a big fan. I love outdoors every day. I was paddling this morning on the Humber River. I was outdoors today. So early inventions of clean technology, solar panels, you can think about that as a great example of a clean technology. It's now an established technology, but in 1839, when Edmund Becquerel started working with the photovoltaic effect, he was able to produce voltage off of the sun's light. 1883, someone else, Charles Birth, and numerous other parties, I've just listed a few, was able to get 1 to 2% efficiency. 1 to 2% efficiency, that's the amount of energy the sun is delivering to us and what can be converted into electricity. In the 1950s, Bell Laboratories realized benefits of semiconducting materials, and were able to get 6% efficiency. In the 70s, energy crisis drove a lot of innovation. Need can be the motherhood of innovation, and we saw huge improvements. And then the last 10 years, it has really transformed itself. And I'm thrilled that today there are contracts being written for energy from wind or solar at less than 2 cents per kilowatt hour. The Grove, I think, probably buys electricity at something like 17 cents a kilowatt hour. It's that efficient. It's that much better than greenhouse gas emitting technologies. Coal, which is no longer in the province of Ontario, but it's still a major source of electricity in many jurisdictions around the world. As much as China is building a ton of solar, they are also still building a lot of coal plants to power their electrical needs. So anyway, that's the journey for photovoltaic solar. And you can see when it was first being developed by Edmund Becquerel, here's an idea, it's in a lab, what will it do? What will the applications be? And many years later, well, it is now commonly accepted as one of the best forms of electricity, and becoming pervasive around the world. But that's a long path to abundant commercialization of that technology. Not all clean technology paths are this long, but this is one that we can all, I think, relate to quite well. So, what's required in clean tech? So, there's a variety of things, and to the students, I would say that are listening, real science, hard science, has an incredible role to play, and I'm going to give you some examples of how that's happening. But physics and photonics absolutely have roles to play. Chemistry, how do substances change? How do you deal with waste? I thought engineering was the secret to solving many of our world's problems, but really, I'm seeing lots of examples of chemistry and physics that are really solving key challenges we're facing. Mathematics, you can't do that photonics without understanding the mathematics of it. you can't solve many financial problems without understanding mathematics. Software, incredibly valuable. So here's one that I think is underrated, and I don't know how popular the English courses are at Lakefield today. When I was there, they were phenomenal. You know, the ability to reason persuasively, to convince people, like I try to convince people every day about the importance of clean tech, or I try to convince the governments of Ontario or Canada, you know, how they can help our sector. I have to convince the bank I work for that, you know, we understand the risks with the company that we're thinking of lending to, but we can take on that risk reasonably. So persuasive reasoning, writing, speaking skills, communication, unbelievably important. There is a need for people in finance that are motivated to work in this sector and help this sector. Access to capital is one of the key challenges that faces the clean technology sector. And if you were thinking in the 1800s of developing solar, you'd obviously need a lot of tenacity to see it through. So the picture here is of me standing up with Steve Selby, also the class of 80. We are on Moody Drive, where if you do spring trots, that used to be the first shortest run you do down Stenner Road for running. That's where my home was. And Doc McCubbin, who taught physics at the Grove when I was there, and still lives in the community, I understand. He gave Steve and I a project. He said, here's a parabolic mirror. Why don't you guys do something with this? And Steve and I created a solar panel. Isn't that ironic? Here I am today, and that solar panel was a thermal solar panel. You can see the hockey stick we have mounted on the base of it, sawed off with a simple lens with a photovoltaic cell inside it that allowed that panel to rotate with the sun during the day. And a little, you can see a plastic tube coming out of the bottom of it, going into a bucket of water that we had a lid on and was insulated. We had water running through that parabolic mirror, which was concentrating the sun's energy. It was -5 there during the day, and we got temperatures of 25 degrees Celsius from our little grade 12 science project. It was terrific of the school to scratch that itch. And Steve and I both were introduced to, I think it was an alumni or a parent who actually owned a home in Mississauga, and we were given a tour of that home where they had a solar thermal installation. And we could see, you know, physically they had a large room in their basement that was dedicated to the storage of that heated liquid. And it gave me a sense of the cost and the challenges to introducing that sort of a technology. If people have to give up a room of their house and have all the capital cost, it would be harder to implement. So even though I didn't know I was going to do clean tech in those days at all, you know, it was great that the school gave us that opportunity to explore and do something. And, you know, we certainly shocked me what we were able to achieve in that experiment. So from that, I'm going to go to the next slide and talk to you about 5 examples of clean technology companies that are doing something today that I think is really neat. So Carbon Cure was voted the clean technology company in North America last year. Carbon Cure, as you may or may not know, cement, the cement industry are the single largest emitters of greenhouse gases in the world. Look around you, how much is made of cement, and it's a polluting industry. So Carbon Cure very, very virtuously, through a chemical process, takes the carbon that could be generated by the creation of the cement or from other sources, and sequester it inside the cement. Cement is the binding agent within concrete, and make that cement stronger. By making it stronger, you need less cement. By sequestering the carbon within the cement, you sequester it forever. It is gone. It is no longer in our atmosphere. It's a very, very virtuous technology. Their sales are exploding. They are based in Halifax, in Nova Scotia, Canada. They've got, I think it's now 230 ready mix plants that they're installed in, 36 customers in North America, with a variety of investors behind them. They're finalists for the Carbon X Prize, which is the big prize. It's going to be awarded in a few months, I think. I think they're a very strong contender for that prize, significant monetary value. But if you look at this list of investors, you'll notice Breakthrough Energy Ventures is an investor here. And here's a point of optimism for everybody, I think. So Bill Gates has done some very interesting things with his wealth. Breakthrough Energy is Bill and I think about 30 of his friends who have pooled funds together and created a $1 billion fund to invest in technologies that will deal with 0.5% of the world's greenhouse gases or more. That's their cutoff. It's got to have huge global impact or they won't invest. That's fund one for Breakthrough Energy Ventures. The next one is going to be $1.5 to $2 billion in size. Jeff Bezos from Amazon has gotten the bug. Jeff is an investor in Breakthrough Energy Ventures. He has, through Amazon, created their own fund. It too is $1 billion in size. You may have noticed I said earlier, one of the key challenges to clean tech is access to capital. Amazon's now at the party. Microsoft has created a fund. The corporate world is realizing that we've got to direct massive amounts of capital to deal with the issues we've got regarding the climate. And they're starting to do it. Amazon today, if you want to sell to them, if you want to help build one of their massive distribution warehouses, which are made out of cement and concrete, it must be built using CarbonCure's technology, or they will not buy. You cannot bid unless the concrete going in was through CarbonCure's technology. So there's a great example, but I'll show you some others here. So smarter alloys. And remember, the first one is chemistry. The second one is advanced materials. Smarter alloys, Ibrahim Khan out of University of Waterloo has helped develop a technology with multiple memory metals. And his first application was a practical one. His wife is a dentist. And he was able to train the metals in a brace binding to automatically, over time, change shape to the shape that you want. No more going in and having a dentist adjust those braces. The braces, quite quickly, it reduces the time for braces, I think, to a quarter of what it would normally be, will automatically tighten and align those teeth. That was the first application that made his wife happy. Second application, Ibrahim, like me, is very much an environmentalist, is truly a miraculous technology. So the dining hall at Lakefield emits a lot of waste heat. The stove, when it's on, the heating and cooling of the school's infrastructure, there's a lot of waste heat that just goes into the atmosphere. Well, what you're seeing in front of you, that picture in the lower right-hand corner, is a technology which basically uses that same multiple memory metal. And when it warms up, it moves one way. And so the heat comes out of the school, it will warm up, it'll move one way. And once it moves over here, it will cool and it'll move back this way. And then it'll warm up again and it'll go one way. And it continues to pivot. Well, what is that? That's a motor. What does that motor do? Well, it's going to generate electricity. Low-grade waste heat. We do not have uses for low-grade waste heat. Ibrahim Khan's company, Smarter Alloys, does. I'll talk to you about another one. So to students out of Ryerson, probably a few years beyond the students at the school today, but not a lot, have come up with a smart charging technology for electric vehicles. One of the challenges with electric vehicle infrastructure is that it's expensive to create and it's not all over the place. So how can you make better use of it? If you had, I don't know, 100 electric vehicles in an apartment building or an office building, do you need 100 charging stations? Well, that would be an inefficient use of resources. And the cars don't need to charge all day. So Switch allows you to efficiently manage a fleet of vehicles and efficiently use those charging stations so that you don't need 100 charging stations for those 100 vehicles. You can do it with 20 and you can have the vehicles rotating in and out. What a brilliant technology needed for today. And as we electrify our transportation sector, Switch is poised to do great things. And we'll talk about two more. So waste. So Luna Yu, a student out of the University of Toronto, one of the Women in Cleantech winners at MARS, it's an innovation center in Toronto, has come up with a chemical process through which she can extract from food waste chemicals and create biodegradable plastic. What do we need more of? Biodegradable plastic. What do we need to get less of? Waste. What a great combination of dealing with a waste stream, turning it into something useful that will turn back into something that's useful, biodegradable, and it won't be on our planet for the rest of our lives. I talked earlier about fundamental sciences, and what a great example. Here's chemistry, and I thought engineering had all the solutions, and chemistry and physics aren't necessarily easy. Math was easy for me and fun, but there are harder sciences. But my gosh, they have so many solutions to how our world works that I'm a big fan of people looking at the pure sciences for academic study. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is Strongcore. And Strongcore is a company, it's only 4 years old. A lot of these companies are quite young. 2015 Carbon Cure is probably the oldest of the companies that I'm showing you. So you can tell a lot's happening very quickly. Strongcore is formed by Max Vidriker. Max had some experience in the solar industry and had an idea to change, in the energy storage business for lithium-ion batteries. And he had an idea about how to improve lithium-ion batteries and went off on his own to develop it. He quite quickly, within the first 12 months of starting that business, had come up with a way to orient lithium-ion batteries so they could replace lead acid batteries on forklift trucks. Lead acid, it's electric, that's good. It means you're not using diesel, but lead acid batteries are dirty. They have to be changed frequently. They can spill. There's chemical consequences to them. He was able to develop a battery that worked in that situation, plus could operate in a cold environment. Batteries, as you know, drain in cold environments. He has a solution that allows that battery to operate in those cold environments. In the first year of operation, he landed contracts. He demonstrated his technology and landed contracts with 3 major corporations and was able to get financing, debt, not equity, early days, to support that business. He's now expanded into other applications and is taking the world by storm. His business sales doubled last year, and he's got contracted sales to double again this year. So that's a pretty impressive outcome for a young emerging company. So, those were 5 companies I wanted to talk to you about. My ask is that, we need you. We need everyone who's on this call, whether you're a student, alumni, parent, teacher. We need you to contribute to helping reduce our impact on the planet. And I'm good to answer any questions we've got.
Okay, great. Peter, thank you so much. I'm going to get right into the questions because we have quite a few of them. I just want to take a moment to thank Mr. Rollwagon's World Issues class for submitting some questions in advance. Obviously, this is a topic that's of supreme interest to them. So maybe I'll start with a few of those, if that's okay, Peter. And then just a reminder to everyone on the call, feel free to submit your questions by typing them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And I'll get to those in just a second. Okay, Peter, first one we have here is from Maxwell. And he's asking, when a product is labeled as clean technology, does it take into consideration the indirect emissions which are involved in its production or transportation?
So the definition of clean tech is a technology that reduces your impact on the environment. So, if you bought a Tesla car, are there any emissions created in getting that Tesla car? For sure there are. But, is a Tesla an all-electric vehicle, a zero emission vehicle, as we like to say, a ZEV? It's not an internal combustion engine. So, the full cost accounting of any clean technology it's a great question, Max, is very valid. But you can call it a clean technology, and there would be emissions made in creating it. But to the extent that those emissions are minimized, or the net impact is an improvement for the environment, it's a clean technology. There's always a risk of greenwashing, which is probably where you're going with that question. And, lots of us in the sector are diligent about trying to work with those that are doing genuine things.
Peter, you just mentioned the term greenwashing, and that's a question that's just come in. An attendee is wondering if you can define that. They're asking, what is greenwashing?
So I haven't got my Wikipedia open, but my definition would be something along the lines of, attributing positive environmental attributes to something purely for the benefit of selling more of that product, and not having a genuine commitment to truly reducing the impact on the environment. There's a cynicism to it, and a lack of legitimacy to it. But sometimes it's thrown around as a slanderous term, and the intention of the entrepreneur is not that, but it's something that anyone in the sector has to hold themselves to account for, because if we're not legitimate, people will. This is tough enough. We don't need to delegitimize it.
Thank you. Okay. Next question here is from Christopher Finley, class of 80. So an classmate.
Hey, Chris.
Christopher asks, how has Ontario Hydro affected the investment environment for clean tech? He says, last I looked, they were not friendly for solar investments, which can affect payback periods and, of course, adoption rates.
So I'm not going to be as hard on Ontario Hydro as maybe you are. The previous government in Ontario did have a very aggressive power purchase feed-in tariff agreement that spurred a ton of solar and wind energy in Ontario, and created an industry. and it didn't hold up that well in global courts to allow us to preferentially buy Ontario-based products. But Canadian Solar and Silfab are two Ontario-based solar manufacturers that continue to exist. So an industry exists, and it wouldn't have existed if that hadn't happened. There's a whole, so the current government is less receptive to doing that. It was perceived to be expensive and whatever. But I can tell you that the Ontario OPG, OPG and Ontario Power Authority have been quite helpful to the sector in terms of setting up demonstration projects where the thing about renewables is that they generate maybe not when you need them. So it's sunny, but I'm not going to turn on all the electricity in my house till tonight. So how do you get the electricity where it's needed, even though it's generated during the day? Or maybe it's windy at midnight tonight and the lights are all off. So energy storage is one of the challenges. And I'll tell you, they've done a number of very excellent projects, one including a project by HydroStore in Goderich, Ontario, where they've used deep water caverns to compress air and use the power of the gravity of the water on top of that air to store power and then release it. Wouldn't have happened if the provincial power authority hadn't supported it and behind it. And that's one of, I don't know, a dozen or 20 very innovative, risky technologies that have been vetted. So I'm not quite as negative as your question implies. Could we be doing more? Sure, but I would consider them to be a partner. And in Ontario, we have zero carbon emitting electricity, which is something to be proud of. Sorry, not zero. It's close to zero. Our peaker power is through gas, natural gas, but there is no more coal in Ontario, and the rest is through renewables and if you include it, nuclear. Nuclear is not carbon emitting, but it is made out of a lot of cement and it has a long, long afterlife. But anyway, it's not carbon emitting.
Great, thanks.
Maybe my answers are a little long for the number of questions you've got, Emily, but.
We have more, the questions are rolling in, so this is great. Okay, I'm going to, the next question here is from Jim Drummond, also a fellow classmate of yours, Peter.
Hey, Jim.
Jim says, what are some of the Canadian developed options being employed for campuses like Lakefield to reduce carbon footprint in their operations?
Well, there's an appropriate question. There's the one that Emily, you and I talked about before was anaerobic digestion and the use of the food waste that the school has. I mean, that is quite an established technology. It can generate some amount of gas that can be used in other ways. That is one thing. Jim, you could design some excellent buildings as an architect. I will leave that part of the question to you. But the waste heat could certainly be used. The water, effective water management treatment could absolutely be part of it. There's a whole lot on I'm assuming everyone at the school has a refillable water container and not a plastic water container. But I haven't been there recently enough, but you just have to stop doing some of those things. So there's a variety of technologies for the built environment, which really is what you're talking about. And the built environment, be it an office tower, a school, or an apartment or condo, generates about 1/3 of our greenhouse gas footprint. So, to the extent that we can minimize that through efficient building, lighting, sensors, Ecobee, a Canadian company, has probably the world's best smart thermostat. Everyone's heard of the Nest because it's Google and Google can promote the heck out of it. but Ecobee has a very good smart thermostat. There's my attempt at your question, Jim.
Thanks, Peter. A number of Mr. Rollwagon's students asked questions around this topic, and one just came in as well from one of our attendees. What advice do you have for students who want to work in this field? And how would you recommend students engage more in environmental issues in a volunteer capacity?
So, I think I've sort of answered it partly already, in that the pure sciences have many solutions. And I encourage people to pursue the pure sciences, to learn how to split that next atom, how to solve some of our problems. But, regardless of, so math was good to me. Math was a comfortable place for me. So finance was a good place for me. But don't do that. If you're pursuing something in finance, pursue it in a way that supports your personal values. And it's so easy to get locked into, oh my gosh, I want to be an investment banker on Wall Street and make the most money in the world. And it can seem very alluring, but pursuing your passion is the most satisfying thing you can do, and being true to who you are. So anyway, that's the first part of the question. The second part of the question: what can you do on a volunteer basis? Well, my gosh, didn't Greta set a great standard there? I think the protests that she organized were brilliant. I think the speaking up wherever you are, in your home, in the school, and sometimes you say something and people, I've been reluctant. The water bottle thing. I was at a staff meeting once, or a business meeting, and we had yet more water bottles at that meeting. And I said, I don't want to sound like a worry ward, but I have to tell you, I'm personally uncomfortable with us bringing in plastic water bottles to our meetings. And so I took a bit of a risk, right? Like, am I going to piss people off? Am I going to alienate anybody? I don't want to make people be alienated. Some people have come up to me and said, Peter, I feel so guilty sometimes. I realized I didn't put my compost out. And I thought of you. I don't want you to feel guilty, but just do what you can and be true to yourself. So those are things you can do. I think, you can participate online. You can sign various petitions. But really, the way things get done, and here's something that Jim Drummond and I did with Brian Jones' support, is we actually worked on a political campaign in Peterborough during one of the elections. We volunteered. Brian lent us his car. We worked for a party that Brian did not support. He was liberal through and through. Anyway, I won't tell you who we supported, but we, do it. The Green Party is probably there. So they probably need someone to carry flyers for the next election. So and if you're lucky enough to have a teacher like Brian that'll lend you a car to do it, power to you. So those are some ideas. And hopefully, Anne Marie, I'm not going to get in trouble for any of those answers.
Thanks, Peter. I think it's important to know as well, we all have refillable water bottles at the school. And this was an initiative that was spearheaded by our 2 co-head students last year. That was a goal, to have no more plastic on campus.
Excellent.
We were just letting folks know that that we won't get to all their questions, but we will certainly connect with you and share these with you and get back to folks with answers, because we have some really great questions here. I think we have time for probably 1 or 2 more. Okay, let me just see here. We have a question here. What is your most important criteria for identifying a solid clean tech investment? How do you prioritize the tech itself against the leadership, company culture, etc.?
I like that question. So one, I'm not Bill Gates, but I do want to see impact. I want to know that it's impactful. And I get it. I believe it. I can see it. Whether it's a a different form of energy storage, whether it's converting that waste to something reusable. The key in technology, there's two keys, and I've been lending in this space for a long time. It's smart people and smart money that's going with them. And if you see those two things, you see smart people that have done things before, and maybe they didn't build a nuclear reactor, but they've done other things that they've proven their ability to lead the LEAF program at the Grove, or undertake a challenge of some sort. And you see smart money going with them. That combination of things, along with innovative technology that can be disruptive, can be incredibly powerful. And those are sort of the simple fundamentals. I have some themes that I really like. So in Canada, there's 3 themes that I'm a fan of. We have a core competency in carbon capture, utilization, and storage. CarbonCure is a great example of that, but there are a number of other companies that are doing things like that. We have good leadership in energy storage, and Strongcore, company I showed you earlier, is a good example of that. And we have very good expertise in hydrogen, and there's lots of hope that hydrogen can be the fuel solution for a clean economy, because it can power things like trucks and buses and trains that electric batteries aren't going to be as good for. So those themes excite me, but I'm a bit of a clean tech junkie. I'm interested in them all, but those are the 3 I'm excited about the most.
We have about 5 minutes left, Peter, and I think I'll throw one more question at you. It's a big question, but maybe you can answer it, in a nutshell. In 20 years, where and how do you see clean technology being used? And that was a question from Mr. Rollwagon's students.
So, kind of like the solar panel image I started with, where it was an idea, and now it's pervasive. It's on homes. It's everywhere. If we, 20 years from now, so we're talking about 2040. I actually want this to happen a lot sooner than this. I like the 2030 goal for zero emission vehicles being the rule. If we can truly transition to the point where not just passenger cars, but all transportation is zero emission, I think that'd be a good thing. There's a hydrogen train in Germany. The GO trains in Toronto, which are pervasive for getting people about, could be all hydrogen. Aircraft, there's electric aircraft. There's a fleet of vehicles of aircraft, small aircraft that are being built that are electric now. If we can move all of transportation, we will be getting a third or 35%, I think, of our greenhouse gas footprint. If we can have in 20 years a less consumer-oriented society where less is a virtue and less is more, where we can not need as much. The home I'm speaking to you from is pretty big. I'm moving to a smaller home. If we can deal with that part, our footprint will reduce, because this home needs a lot of electricity and heat. If we can reduce our waste by consuming less, we'll be doing a lot better. So we have to by 2040 have eliminated, captured a huge amount of carbon. There's a company called Carbon Engineering in Squamish, BC, and it has giant fans that take carbon out of the atmosphere. So lots of people are excited, and the founder of that company loves to say, you think I might have the cure. This maybe is the moonshot. It costs $1 billion per plant. One per plant. You would need so many of those plants, we don't have enough money. He likes to say, do not think of this as the magic cure. We need every solution to deal with this challenge and problem. We need them all, or as many of them as possible, to come to the floor to keep the planet from warming beyond 1.5 degrees. So all of the above is my answer.
Okay, I think on that note, we'll officially wrap up. Thank you so much, Peter, for sharing with us everything from a historical context to the skills required for work in this field, and tying it back to your experience personally at the Grove is always nice to hear. Thank you everyone for joining us and submitting your questions. Thank you, Sophia, for joining us as well. And keep your eyes peeled for future speakers. We have Jeremy Hansen, who's an astronaut with the Canadian Space Agency, joining us on December 8th. And then our speaker for January is Dr. Rola Shaheen. So Peter, we so much appreciate you being a part of this series. Have a good evening, everyone.
My honor. Thank you.
Thank you.